Good morning, early game crew. We're going to have to talk about it because there was a catastrophe that happened at Colonial Life Arena last night, and we are going to break that down. And there is some soul searching this basketball program needs to do, this school needs to do when it comes to the basketball program. Final score, Florida, a lot. South Carolina, not a lot. And by that, I mean 95-48. It's one of the worst losses at home in SEC history in terms of margin of victory. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We are trying to figure this thing out. Easier said than done, I'm afraid.
Wasn't there something happy you could lead with? How about the baseball? No.
No. Yeah, there's maybe some bad news there, too.
But the women play tonight.
They do. Your number 3 South Carolina Gamecocks do hit the road and play tonight, and they will certainly get a mention. They play Auburn. They should win that one by a lot.
So there you go.
Maybe they could
I just want to get some sunshine rolling, so now we're good.
Yeah, maybe they could do on the road what Florida did on the road to the men's basketball team last night.
That'd make us feel better.
Well, if old television taught me anything, it's tomorrow is only a day away.
Another song idea.
You know, I want to write that down. You know, what am I doing here? I can just write songs that no one's ever heard anymore, and I could make a lot of money to retire and live on the beach.
I love that.
The great artist Beck had a song.
Loser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things about that song is, too, that he insinuates he is such a loser that a mercy killing is necessary.
A little too on the nose?
Last night it felt like it.
Running clock. Stop it. What's the what do we do in basketball when we need a running? Is it running clock? How do we remedy this situation? What's the run rule in basketball? Because they have it in baseball.
They have it in baseball. Yeah, and in basketball, I feel like NCAA officials are going to treat them like grown men.
Oh.
And going to make you play this thing out one way or the other. You got to play this mess out.
Uh-huh.
You got to take that beating like a man.
You don't get to get out of this.
The NCAA does not care that you lost by almost as many points as you scored.
Ooh.
They lost by 47. They scored 48.
Not a metric that you want.
The NCAA is looking at you in the middle of the game saying, we do not care. You will play the rest of this game.
Now, Elijah, you were in the building.
Oh, I was.
So we have two different perspectives, and I think that's a great place to start because I was not in the building. I watched the broadcast, and with the broadcast, they had a game on before our game.
Yeah, Tennessee and Georgia went to overtime.
That's right. Tennessee and Georgia went to overtime. So already, I'm annoyed.
And also, I'm annoyed by what happened in that game. Georgia forgot the score. That's a whole other thing. If we would have done an additional get on the line. Poor Millender kid at Georgia, man. You got to know the score, dog.
But here's the thing. I'm annoyed, so I'm like, come on, man. It's 9 o'clock. Can I just see the game that I want to see, please? I don't care about this other game. Because unlike in football, I'm just interested in what's going on with us, right?
Yes.
The periphery, especially now that we find ourselves at the bottom, I'm not really interested in what's going on up the upper levels of the conference. So I'm already frustrated. I'm like, all right, man, just play our game. So I go to do something, and I get involved in doing something, cleaning up the kitchen or whatever the case is, and I come back to the score of 22-11. I was like, oh, what happened? And it didn't matter when I came back because at no point during the game did South Carolina have the lead. At no point during the game did South Carolina even tie. For 40 minutes, whistle to whistle, bell to bell, start to finish, it was over.
Only 47 points away. And that's exactly how it felt. When Florida got up 22-11, in the building, you could sense some animosity. Because I want to say it was, obviously it's early in the game. Unless the other team scores the first 20 points. There's at least a point in the game where You're trading possessions.
Yeah, of course.
And so there's still, like, a little bit of, okay, they're aggressive defensively in the first 3 or 4 possessions. Like, oh, they're blitzing ball screens. They're going to force Florida's guards to have to make a little further away from the basket, meaning they're going to force the bigs for Florida, who are really good, to play a little further away from the basket. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, you stick to that all game. If Florida can't adjust to that, then maybe you can draw this thing in the mud, because Florida was taking some time on their possessions. And I'm like, okay, pace is favoring you so far. And then when Florida was able to get out and transition whenever they bleeping wanted to, one of the reasons why the fast break point discrepancy was 32-3 last night, 32 points in transition Florida scored. After a couple times where Florida just beat them down the floor in a foot race and got easy buckets, and then Klavchar off the bench for Florida came in and hit a couple threes, everybody in that gym knew what was up. Again, we're not even 10 whole minutes into this game. Everybody in that building knew what was up at that point.
And unfortunately, when you say everybody, when you looked out on the court, that means everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Not just the fans.
The participants.
And that's the issue. And that's the dangerous place of where we're heading with this team, is because you cannot ever get used to being a loser. You can lose, but you can't get used to being a loser. And when you get beat by 34, when you get beat by 47, when you get beat by double digits consistently, you start to become okay with being beaten like a drum.
Yeah.
And I fear that that's where this team is headed.
Yeah. It's like when you're a kid in school and you get in trouble a lot. And, you get that call to the office back in the days of, when corporal punishment was in style.
Ooh, you was around for that?
Oh, I was around for that.
Okay.
And at some point, you accept your fate and you assume the position. That is what South Carolina did last night.
Shout out to Mr. Sanders, DeVoe's middle. Not my guy.
You can't tell me you two actually got in trouble.
It's middle school, It's a tough time for everybody. But shout out to Mr. Sanders.
I'll say, never paddled by a teacher or principal. Blessed. But gotten the belt from my father? Yeah. And you know what? I know what belt to ass feels like. And that is a popular term when it comes to one team beating another team. Shoot, Michael Irvin got the belt out when Miami won a thrilling game against Ole Miss, but it really isn't BTA.
Not the same.
Right? But, he's doing it as a bit. I get it. Last night wasn't even belt to ass. That was a steel toe boot.
Mm-hmm. Paddling. I like that. Yeah. That's a great paddling.
And you know what?
Put on some extra pants, some sweats underneath those jeans.
Here's the worst part.
Cushion.
Florida knew you were wearing extra pants too, so they put a little more oomph into that swing.
Move your hand.
You had the pants. You had the winter coat, the long winter coat to cover.
Everything that you could try to cover, and it still ended up happening. And by the time that lead stretched to 20+, and there was still about 8 minutes to go in the first half, we reached FEMA game status, where that place cleared out faster than FEMA ever could.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is because I think everybody in the building not only just knew what was up, the effort wasn't great in that first half, too. The energy was not great at all.
Bad part was when you started to see the players trying to sneak out one by one, like they're distracting the coach because the guy on the bench is like, I'm out of here, All
right, y'all be good.
It's been real.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all see what time it is. It's getting a little late in here.
I got homework to do.
I got homework to do. But last night, too, Lamont Paris after the game, this week cut 3, Jenny, talks about that effort. And, he highlights Eli Ellis's effort. But this is him talking to Derek Scott and Judge Manning in terms of effort in this game.
No, he was aggressive, that's for sure. And he needs to be aggressive. He needs to be aggressive. And so that was good to see. He got around the basket and finished. He made some good hard attacks off the dribble. Made a couple of shots. And to some degree, that's part of his game. Is once he gets it going, there's going to be a moment where he's testing to see how hot is. And you live with a little bit of that. Yeah. But that was, you're always trying to take some sort of positive away. That may be one. The other one, it's hard to play in those moments like that. But a couple of things. Eli Sparkman comes in and he does a couple of things, passes that were struggling in some ways with some guys, some accomplished players to make those same passes. It just makes you wonder what it looks like for him to get in there. So anyway, we got to get back to the drawing board. That's obvious. And I was shocked that the level of fight was so low, so quick to pack it in once a couple of things in the second half went south, just quick to pack it in. And that's, again, that's not a good characteristic.
That's the part that's unacceptable. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we can talk about the few possessions in the first half where Eli Ellis showed some dog and some effort. That's great. Cool. But to have your coach pretty much admit that you packed it in, dog, you are playing the defending national champions at home, a team that is at the top of the SEC right now, coming off of a loss against Auburn, that Florida team is, at home, which is the reason they're not in first place, because Texas A&M had their turn taking the belt to you over the weekend. This was an opportunity. Yes. Is Florida really good? Absolutely. Is Florida what they were last year? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. You had an opportunity to make a statement and show something. And if you did not watch that game last night and you only heard what Lamont Paris had to say about his team's effort, even that should make you disgusted. Mm-hmm. Because there is no universe in which we are almost to February and we're having to talk about effort in a big game. Like, yeah, sure, if you're playing Presbyterian, sorry, Blue Hose, you caught a stray, but if you're playing Presbyterian in December, yeah, maybe you might sleepwalk the first 10, 15 minutes of that game. This is the defending national champions coming into your house, and not only did you look like you didn't belong, you looked like you didn't want to be there.
Don't want this.
Didn't want no part of it.
No, and that was very clear. As I said, at 22-11, there was at no point as a fan watching that game like, oh, they're going to make a comeback here. And what was even worse is you saw what a national championship type of team does to mincemeat, to food.
Yeah.
They started, it was like chum in the water. And then you see these dudes start, oh, I'm about to dunk on this dude. You see a different look in their eye. You saw the aggressiveness. You see them going to the hole. You see them, like I said, I think it wasn't, is it Creased?
Yeah.
My man Creased got his ball packed so hard against the backboard one time. It was like, like the double thud of a punt. Boom. That's how it sounded on the broadcast. I don't even imagine how it sounded in the gym. And he just ran back. Loud. He just ran back down, and then you could just see like their eyes getting wider and wider.
No, they're having fun.
They looked like they were having fun out there, and that's not a spot you want to be in as a team who's supposed to be competing with them.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. I understand not having the roster. The players can't help who was selected alongside them to play for this team. There are controllables in this game, like effort and fear. Because what happened last night, to stick to that analogy, that was a predator-prey type relationship. Mm-hmm. Because when South Carolina got the ball in the paint, the few times they were able to work the ball around and get it into the paint, there was an element of fear that existed. They were 5 for 17 on layups in this game, or shots at the basket. 5 for 17. Florida blocked 8 shots. That's fear. Not being able to draw fouls, getting in there and pump faking 3 times on that shot that Crease got blocked down low. Again, a 7-footer. He pump faked 4 times. At some point, you got to go up with it strong and go up with it without an element of fear.
The double thud, ba-bam! It was the hand, and then it hit off the backboard. I was like, oh no, oh no.
We have some other numbers that tell the story of this game, and when I read off the four factors numbers, you might not believe it if you didn't watch the game, and this is the only source of information you have. But we'll discuss that next here in the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They will come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, maybe the CLA Center after Crease gets his ball packed off the backboard so hard that you can hear a double punt. That's not what we're talking about. Anyway, if you're looking to increase the value of your home with new windows and mirrors, Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of it for you. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. They say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Good news, we do not have any accidents right now, so we will take that for your Thursday morning. And weather-wise, yep, things will be changing here, it appears. Clouds today, 45 for the high, 25 for the overnight low, 52 tomorrow, again, overnight low 26. Then more winter-like weather comes in. Saturday, we still have in the forecast some snow. Overnight low of 16, both Saturday and Sunday nights. So some very cold temperatures on the way. Right now, it's 32 on 107.5 The Game.
Before we get to the four factors breakdown and a couple other damning numbers from last night, I did want to read a text from the Firehouse Subs text line that I think makes a really good point, and that comes from Corbin. It says, watching that game last night, the thought came to me. This team has no desire for smoke. I feel like gritty basketball teams approach a game like this with the we want all the smoke mentality. Non-existent in this team. Corbin, you are 100% correct.
Yeah, that's the issue, because all yesterday we said that there was a pathway towards competition in this game, and it was going to have to be, you're going to have some dog in you, and they did not display that. And that's a bad combination when you're not highly skilled, you're not very athletic, and you don't play very hard. That leads to getting beat by 47 points.
The whole point yesterday during the show when talking about what this game was going to be, said if you wanted a chance to win this game, you got to drag them to the deep end of the pool. They want to play fast. Slow them down. They are not a very good three-point shooting team. Get them in a three-point shooting contest, which if you shoot like you did last night, you're not beating anybody in a three-point contest because, once again, this team shot badly from the three-point line. They were 3 for 20 in the game. And Florida actually ended up making 42.9% of their threes, a team that was making 28% of them coming in. I don't think Florida just magically woke up yesterday and said, you know what? We're going to shoot like the 2015 Golden State Warriors. No. A lot of those were open looks because they took the time and care of the ball to move it around. You are not game defensively to rotate and get to shooters in time. And Florida shot a lot of horse shots. Were there a couple of tough threes in there? One or two. But they got any look they wanted. And they were able to make them. And it's amazing. I think that stat shows that even some of your worst college basketball teams can make those threes if you let them open enough. And they were open enough last night. And when you look at the four factors of this game, really there's only two that matter. Because South Carolina actually did win two. They won the turnover battle. They turned the ball over in 14% of their possessions, Florida on 15. And they won the free throw rate battle. 0.29 for South Carolina in terms of getting to the free throw line, 0.23 for Florida. But what really lost you this game was effective field goal shooting, and I've never seen a discrepancy like this in high major college basketball or between two high major college basketball teams. I never have. I box score watch like it's nobody's business. I consume so many of these type of box scores throughout a basketball season that I can become numb to maybe a 20 percentage point discrepancy here. I will never grow numb to seeing one team have an effective field goal shooting of 69.6%, almost 70 throughout a game, and their opponent going 28.4. That type of discrepancy gives you zero chance to win that game. And then offensive rebound percentage, they doubled you up, essentially. Florida grabbed 32% of their missed shots, which, hilariously enough, was only 8 offensive rebounds, but 8 offensive rebounds accounts for 32% of their missed shots. South Carolina only grabbed 15.9% of their missed shots. Those two things alone, specifically the effective field goal shooting, and not being able to protect the paint at all, and once you start giving up threes, it was kind of all over from there.
Those are excellent basketball numbers, but I have another simple basketball number. 0. The number of dunks.
And I think that is reflective of a lot of games this season.
I think this is a really important metric to look at because as Florida started heating up, they started dunking. They had 6 at the end of the game yesterday. We had 0. I think that looks at the athleticism of the team. That looks like the will of the team. Do you want any of this? Do you want to go inside and do this? And also, so there's 2 things, skill and will. Can you do this? Do you want to do this? I think we're 0 for 2. I don't think we want to do it, and I'm not sure if we can do it. And that is an issue when you're playing in one of the best basketball conferences in the nation.
It absolutely is.
That's very difficult to overcome. Another number, another 0. Second chance points. 0.
They grabbed 15.9% of their offense of their missed shots, which is a low number to begin with, just because, for reference, the NCAA average for offensive rebounding percentage is 30.9. So not only did you not grab a lot of offensive rebounds and not get a lot of second chances, you converted none of the ones that you got into points.
But you know what, Elijah? There was one possession that illustrated this point beautifully. And I was trying to go back and see because I wanted the specific people. Because on this particular possession, they did grab 2 offensive rebounds. They grabbed 2 offensive rebounds, and they shot 3 3-pointers. And they missed all 3 of them. Do you know the possession I'm talking about? It looked like rec ball. Yeah. Rebound, 3, bong. Rebound, 3, bong. Rebound, 3, bong. Fast break, dunk. Whoa.
That's the inexcusable part, is that leading to a fast break dunk. Again, Florida had 32 points.
Come on, man.
In transition. 32 of them.
So, my biggest thing is that you're getting to the point where getting blown out looks like it's becoming what you do.
Routine.
That is unacceptable from the coaching staff, players involved, everybody involved with the program. But that does not. There's no coming back once you start getting used to being a loser.
No.
Not losing. I'm not saying losing. I'm saying being a loser. And when you get beat by 47, you are a loser.
Yeah.
There's no other way to slice it. I don't care who. As my rest in peace to my old man. They put their pants on just like you do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
47 points, dog. You can't call yourself. And I've been part of teams who've gotten blown out, and I can say when you get blown out, it's not about skill. There's something else happening.
Especially when it's happening with such regularity. Over the weekend, you played Texas A&M. Texas A&M at one point had a 32-point lead. Mm-hmm. You garbage timed your way into it not being a 30-plus point game. When you go back and look at the Arkansas game, you lost by 34, but at one point in that game, you did trail by 43. Late in the game until you garbage timed your way into it being a 34-point loss. That's becoming a habit. That Arkansas game was January 14th. It is January 29th, and you've had 3 separate games where you either lost by 40-plus, lost by 30-plus, or trailed by 40-plus in one of those games. In the A&M game, again, you trailed by as many as 32. That's not being competitive.
Right.
And now that close game against Auburn seems really fluky. Auburn missed a lot of shots. And then the win against Oklahoma might be a more indictment on Oklahoma than anything else now, it appears. Porter Moser's had some damning results for Oklahoma. There might not have been a more damning result for Porter Moser than what happened at CLA last night. And his team didn't even play. And for LSU, too. The LSU comes in here on Saturday.
Thank God.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's go.
Gods, please.
Scheduling gods, we appreciate you.
Oh, man. Oh, they could not have. When people say the bye couldn't have come at a better time, LSU couldn't have come at a better time than this weekend. Oh, man. Coming up next, we'll get to the AAA heating and air phone lines, but we'll also look at the targeting rule because apparently the NCAA is looking at the targeting rule. We'll continue the discussion about the basketball game from last night and the future of the most controversial penalty in college football. All of that and more coming up next here in the early game.
Traffic still moving along nicely on your Thursday morning, and the weather cooperating thus far. We're expecting some clouds today, 47 for the high. That overnight low about 25. Tomorrow, 52, overnight low of 26. Before we get into Saturday, where we are expecting potential snowfall, 31 will be the high, 35 on Sunday, but those overnight lows Saturday night and Sunday night will be in the teens. So definitely colder weather, and then back into the 20s for overnight lows next week. So winter is still here. It's 32 currently.
For the first time this morning, we're going to head to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Our pal Ray is hanging out with us this morning. Good morning, Ray. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Wow, I was just got so many things to say, but about the basketball program. But first thing I was going to say, can you imagine being somebody? I'll just say I'm glad I didn't go to that game last night. Can you imagine going to that game, a 9 o'clock start? You go into the cold of the night. You probably will get home to 11:30, maybe 12 o'clock, and you witness that. And then you got to get up and go to work this morning.
Elijah, what?
I can't imagine, Ray, because I did it.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't leave the arena till 11:30 after the press conference.
Oh, my goodness. Well, and we all know Coach Paris he's a great guy and everything like that. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And I think it's, at the end of the year, I guess percentage would be the 90 percentile that we'll be moving on to another coach. It's just, is that the worst home loss we've ever had? Does anybody know?
I do know it's one of the worst home losses in the history of the SEC in terms of like SEC on SEC action. I don't know if there was a worse margin of defeat at home in history.
And I know I'm piling on, guys, but I'm keeping it classy and nice. But have you ever seen a basketball team that had 2 7-footers that were so non-relevant?
Yeah, well, I mean, Priest got the ball down low once in that game, and it got blocked.
And they're not playing because, coach don't like them. They're not playing because they just aren't skilled enough to play. But, golly, I don't know, a bad decision on getting these players together. I don't know, but if you just think about the totality of the big three sports, I'm talking men's, because right now, thank God for Don Staley. I'm just talking about men's sports. Is there a school in the Power Four that has more futility right now in the big three than University of South Carolina? It would be hard to find another school. It really would be. I mean, it would take some digging. Maybe you can come up with a couple. But I'll say this and I'll get off the line. It just goes back to the old saying, when it comes to our fans, I've heard people just criticize our fan base. But this is what I think about our fans. Never have so many gave so much to get so little in return. That's all I got to say, guys. So thanks a lot.
Appreciate the call as always, Ray. Yeah, I mean, I will say there were not a lot of what I would consider like regular paying customers outside of students. Like the students did show up last night. I will say the students made a large chunk of the population in that arena last night. A lot of Florida fans.
And that showed up on TV.
Yeah.
That showed up on the broadcast.
And here's the thing, too. You can have – the students wanted to get loud. They wanted to get rowdy. But when you fall by double figures or you get down by double figures as early as they did and you showed no fight to get back in the game, why would they show vocal fight to help you get back in the game?
And most importantly, Elijah, they made my man, the Honorable Judge Casey Manning, get dressed up in his finest white suit for this. That's where you should be ashamed of yourself. You let this man get dressed up in all white because he was ready to go.
Fly as Hell.
Wasted his white suit on you.
That's the worst part.
That's the worst part. That's where you should feel ashamed of yourself.
If Judge Casey Manning dressed like that to show up to one of my events and he told me that he wasn't mad, he was just disappointed, I think that would break me.
Oh, well, exactly. So now what they need to do is have a picture of him in his white suit in the locker room.
As you get on the line.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
This is why you're on the line.
Mm-hmm.
That man put his finest white suit on for you. And you gave me this? Get out of here, man.
I did tell Judge Manning, I said, the white suit is sick. And it does kind of give some Rick Pitino at Louisville vibes whenever they do their whiteout games. He wore that on the sidelines. You appreciate it because it's a good look. It's a great look.
Listen, man.
Very unfortunate. But before we get out of this segment, too, we did have a planned discussion here about the NCAA looking at the targeting rule and asking the question, how should we adjust it? Now, Ross Dellinger wrote a story on Yahoo Sports where he kind of cites a lot of the research for this rule and that it has made the game, I don't know if it would say significantly, but it has been safer. Fewer of the helmet-to-helmet hits have been recorded and fewer targeting penalties have had to be called over the course of the last few years. So if we can establish anything, the targeting call is not going away at all. It's not going away. But there is a potential adjustment in terms of the punishment for it. And in that article, too, I think the one thing that I was the most pleased to read is that it might start being addressed kind of like what the NCAA does with flagrant fouls. You can do a flagrant one in a game, and that's not an ejection. It's just a foul that adds to your total, which puts you 1/5 of the way towards disqualification of the game. But a flagrant two, no matter how many fouls you got, you commit a flagrant two penalty, that's an automatic ejection. And that's the one thing I've always had a gripe with when it came to the targeting rule, is that it is a blanket ejection, and if you get called for it in the second half, it is a blanket ejection plus a suspension for the first half of the next game. I don't love that.
Yeah, I mean, even in our judicial system, there's murder and there's manslaughter. And somebody's dead at the end, but they're kind of like two different things a little bit, right?
There are layers to the punishment.
Yeah, there's murder one. This idea of targeting was like, okay, yes, regardless of how you feel about the rule or the penalty, we all could recognize that there were some that were egregious or some that were especially unsafe and some that especially put players' health in jeopardy. And there were other ones that were consequences of the game. And the problem was that there was no line to differentiate between those two things. And it seems like they're moving towards having some system in place, and we can do this. That'd be my thing. We can do this. We can figure out a way to keep the penalty in place, but also make it a more just penalty if it happens during the game.
And the only tricky part would be kind of defining the difference between, let's just say they call it a targeting one or a targeting two. And the targeting two is the automatic ejection. Targeting one is the 15-yard penalty. This isn't one of those things because the worst thing that can happen in terms of a targeting two is an ejection and a suspension for the first half if you were ejected in the second half of the previous game. You can't just, Potter Stewart this thing, former Supreme Court judge, when, asked about his thoughts on obscenity, he goes, I can't define it. I know it when I see it. You can't do that. We have to have clear boundaries as to what, a targeting one or a targeting two would be if we decide to use those terms. But there's a way where you can outline a difference between one and two. And I think maybe the crown of the helmet's where you start. Because there's some forcible contact to the head and neck to a defenseless player that is, like you said, a circumstance of the game. But I think maybe the kind of the line of demarcation can be if you lower your head and the crown of your helmet is the one making that contact specifically, then maybe we can upgrade that to a more severe penalty.
I would also add launch.
Oh, yes, launch, definitely.
If you launch into somebody, that can be that's something that we can distinctly see. We can see your motivations. We can see what you were trying to do. Because, again, throughout the game, it's very difficult to calibrate in split seconds whether or not I'm here or I'm here, if I'm aiming for your shoulder, if I hit your head. So there are ways that they can do this.
There are definitely ways that we can outline this.
I'm glad we're moving towards that.
Yes, that we can apply a little bit of common sense here. Now, maybe talking about targeting penalties and a blowout at CLA wasn't fun here in this first hour, but we have some fun for you next. The greatest call in sports broadcasting history, next. Well, the Winter Olympics are coming up, and there's really only one Winter Olympic memory that reigns supreme. Now, I was not alive for it, but I do know the iconic call of "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes, whenever the men's hockey team for the United States of America had the miracle on ice and beat a Soviet Union team that just a couple months before beat the NHL All-Stars 10-3 with a bunch, and then the USA did it with a bunch of college players. Pretty remarkable. Greatest broadcasting call in sports history. Until now. And little did you know that this broadcasting call came from a middle school basketball game in the state of Kentucky. Well, the game wasn't very competitive, and there was a little bit of a scuffle. So I'll give you the backdrop here. There's a little bit of a scuffle that goes on between these 8th graders at the end of this game, and we're just going to let the local webcast crew take it from here.
Well, some of it.
James, go get Justin.
Yeah, go get him.
And here we go.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get the ball game.
Hey,
Look here. This ball game's got to get over.
Thought that last night, too.
yeah, let's go. This game's over. Ain't no sense doing this. We'll get somebody hurt bad. This game's over.
Yeah, you can't get this.
This game's over.
And they just tased Ryan. This ball game is over. Yeah, we're going to end our live feed. This game has got to come to an end.
Oh, they just tased Ryan. Move over, Al Michaels. Move over, Miracle on Ice. They just tased Ryan is the funniest thing I have ever heard on any type of broadcast.
In a middle school game.
They just tased Ryan. And the casualness in which he said that insinuates that Ryan may or may not have been tased before.
Ryan's this type of guy. They knew Ryan.
Ryan's about that smoke, and I think this either happened before or this is only a matter of time until Ryan was getting tased.
The best part is when if you go back and listen, you can hear the taser. You hear the electricity through the air. They just tased. Rarely has a man been so prepared for the moment, right? Broadcasters are, they like, what's going to be? Bang! And what's it going to be? Stayed in the pocket. They just tased Ryan.
like he clocked it. Could you imagine like an SEC network broadcaster or an ESPN broadcaster in a basketball game? If somebody gets tased,
I would think that your voice would elevate an octave or so. Like, whoa, what just happened? He's got tased.
We have a tasing.
Stayed with it.
Nope. There was no person on planet Earth or in that gym less surprised about Ryan's tasing than that broadcaster.
And I would, again, I'd love to know the history of this, because why is there a taser in the building to start with? Again, is it because Ryan has needed it before? Like what?
Shout out to Lonnie Rowe for on Twitter for bringing America this piece of gold. What's funnier, though? The fact that somebody had to be tased at this game, or the fact that it's a middle school basketball game?
Yeah, this was not the national championship game.
Oh, wait, and I don't know if the context is there, but Ryan is a parent.
Okay, Ryan is a parent.
Right,
okay.
Ryan is not.
Okay, it's not a coach.
Ryan
okay.
is Ryan, which makes it worse, by the way.
100%.
Which makes it 1,000% worse, because
sure.
Ryan's not a player. Ryan's not even a coach who's supposed to be on the court. Ryan is a parent
who knows these broadcasters by first name. This does not seem like a large, sprawling metropolis.
I'm thinking small town.
Small town, right? And, as somebody who, grew up, from ages, birth to 13 in a town of 1,900 people, I get it.
2,200 people, so I'm right there with you.
Jen Jensen gets it, right?
Oh, man.
So,
everybody knows everybody. Their license plate. Their people. They're having probably for dinner. So somebody's going to need to be tased.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. Everybody.
Ryan has on any given night, right? On any given Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you name it, any given night, Ryan has a potential of getting tased. And that was the voice of a man who is absolutely not shocked or perturbed by what he just saw at all.
Hey, parents, stay in the stands.
Yes.
Don't be Ryan.
If there's a fight on the court or the field or your child, stay in the stands. Either let them win the fight or let them get beat up. Let the authorities handle it, but do not come out of the stands. This is my PSA.
What are you going to do?
I'm seeing the billboard now Don't be Ryan. Parents, don't be Ryan.
You will
and
get
it's
tased.
And it's him with a taser right up to him. Like,
And I, for one, am in official support of this. You walk on the court as a parent, you get tased.
I've been a referee for Pee Wee football games. I have volunteered for youth sporting events. You know what? Ryan getting tased was a win for a lot of those referees or those umpires or whoever.
Listen for Ryan in the last segment of the show.
That's right. Yeah. Ryan's going to be a winner. Or is he a loser? I don't know. All I do know is hour number 2 is coming up next. We'll take your calls and more SEC football survey.
No accidents to report, and cold weather, well, a little bit milder, I guess, for a couple days. 47 for the high, and tomorrow 52. Then it gets cold. 31 on Saturday with snow showers likely. 35 on Sunday. Those overnight lows throughout the weekend are going to be in the teens. So back to the preparations in your home to make sure pipes don't freeze and all of that stuff. Right now, we are looking at 32 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She is Jen Jensen. None of us are getting tased, or at least plan on getting tased.
They tased Ryan.
Yeah, they just tased Ryan. Oh, man. Currently going through an article that gives a little more context, and we'll revisit this because I think we could all use a little lightheartedness at some points during the show. Is Mike still on the phone, Jen Jensen? All right. Mike, well, the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, our man Mike. Appreciate you hanging through the break with us, and appreciate you calling in. Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
I was at the game last night and stayed for the whole thing, so that should answer your question first of all right there. But anyway, y'all, last night there's so many things to unpack last night, but y'all, one thing that really irritated me last night was we gave up last night, and we got the ball stolen one play, and nobody runs back to try to contest the layup that Florida's doing. I mean, y'all, there's some things I can live with, y'all, but lack of effort is something that I cannot deal with, y'all. I mean, Coach Harris even alluded to it in the post game with Derek last night. He saw quitting his team. That to me signifies a bigger problem, y'all. When your team gives up, something's got to change. When we talk about changes, I'm thinking y'all, our record's not very good. So maybe we try to change the starting lineup. Ellis looked pretty good last night. It looked like he actually cared if you wanted to be out there. Maybe I'd like to see him in the starting lineup instead of Studi maybe. And, why don't we try to empty our bench out some? I'm not sure Butler or Estadonko is going to do better, but, y'all, it can't be worse than what we're seeing right now, y'all. I mean, it's terrible. Let's maybe change the way we're playing, too. Maybe we try to press more, try to get some more turnovers, try to do something to ignite our offense. Something, y'all. It's so frustrating, y'all. And one of the timeouts looked like Coach Harris and the coaches that didn't look like they knew what they were going to do. It's frustrating, y'all. But anyway, thank you for taking my call, y'all. I hope you have a good day.
Absolutely appreciate the call, Mike. And when it comes to effort and the entire effort part of this, what makes it so frustrating is the stat that really reflected effort and what Mike alluded to in terms of just not getting back on defense. Florida scored 32 points in the fast break last night. The team that leads the country with the most fast break points per game in America is Georgia at 23. You can be out-athleted. I know that is not maybe a word or a term, but
we know what you mean. The point of language is for us to understand what you're saying. We got you.
I will Steinbeck my way through this. Mm-hmm. You can be out-athleted, right? That's going to happen in basketball. We've talked about the warm-up test before, where you watch two teams warm up and you can say, oh, well, I know which team should win this game, right? But that doesn't always happen because basketball is a game of more than just athleticism. But to get beat 32-3 in fast break points? Dog, at some point, get your tail back on defense. I know Florida plays fast. I know that's what they want to do. But nothing is more of reflective of poor effort in that game than one team just running harder than you down the floor. And that's a reflection of what, if we only counted Florida's fast break points, South Carolina doesn't win by more than 20.
Yeah, you can't, and you can't have that. And everybody's responsible for it. It starts at the top with Lamont. You have to be able, you can't, at this point in the season, you cannot say, well, we're just not playing with enough effort. You're responsible for that. That's the first thing you're responsible for.
Solely.
Forget before you draw up any X's and O's or anything else, you are responsible for getting your team to play with effort. The next thing is the athletes. You are responsible for your effort on the court. If they're not provided, and that's what I'm saying, listen, man, if you are skilled enough to play in the SEC, then you shouldn't be getting beat by 47.
You shouldn't be getting beat. If you're a Power 4 conference team in America, I don't care, how bad you are. I don't care if you are, I'm trying to think of some of the worst ones. If you're Boston College isn't getting beat by 47 in any of those games. The ACC is really good this year. They ain't get beat by 47.
Right. And the part about that is also the repeatedly part, right? Because it's not just 47. It's 34. It's 23. And I'm said it in 6. I'll say it in 7. And I'll say it in 8. What I fear is that the team is getting used to being losers. And when you get used to being a loser, it becomes easier and easier every time to just pack it up and pack it in and wait for the next one to come around. And that is the issue. Once you start down that path of being a loser, I'm not saying losing games. I'm saying being a loser. And losing by 47 qualifies you as being a loser.
Yep.
Once you start going down that path, it gets very easy to just do it the next time. And that's the path that they're going to have to figure. They're going to have whatever conversations need to be had. But I'm currently I currently got a text from a former basketball player. And let's just say he said the basketball group chat was on fire last night.
Oh, I bet it was off the hook.
And I can imagine that because I know the old guy football chats. Especially, and it's never really ever about losing. It's about when you start seeing those effort type of things, and that's what you don't want to see. And that's the unfortunate result of that game last night, is you saw a team that rolled over.
Because if you've played sports before at any level, I mean, I don't care if it's, middle school ball, if it's high school, college, pro, whatever. There are days where there's no matter what you do, the other team's just going to beat you, because if you're playing in college, they're on scholarship and getting paid too. If you're a professional, that team gets paid too. Like, there are instances in which that can happen, right? That's sports. And I think Carolina fans, they wouldn't have been happy. No one's happy with losses, but you can live with maybe a 10-point loss to the defending national champs at home because they uncharacteristically hit some threes, and Alex Condon, who's one of the better players in America, Thomas Houck, who's one of the more versatile players in America, makes plays, right? You can live with that. It's when you get beat by 47 and the body language is what it was, and the not getting back on defense is what it was. Like, losing to Florida might have been unavoidable. Losing to Florida by 47 points is 1,000% avoidable. And I think that is what really is going to grind the gears of South Carolina fans. And if you felt insulted by paying money to go to that game last night, and that's the effort you get, I can't say I'd blame you one bit. We'll go back to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Bob is on the line with us this morning. Good morning, Bob. Welcome to the early game.
Thank you very much. I just want to say one thing. In the real world, you are evaluated and you are paid by the way you do your job. Now, if we're going to pay players, and we need to evaluate each game, and this is how much money you get. If you don't do good, you don't get paid. It goes all the way to the coach, and we pay them by the game. Take the NIL out of it, and it was a lot different. People play for pride. They play for their school. They play for themselves. They play for a team. But now we put this money thing out there, and it's ruined it all. And I think that's part of it too. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Bob.
I can understand that sentiment. But Florida players are getting paid too.
Yeah.
And they play with a lot of effort.
On the road, they played with a lot of effort.
There's players all around the country that are getting rightfully paid. The idea, and also the second part is we can take care of this because, one, it's not their job. It could be if they wanted to go through collective bargaining and make this official, but they don't want to do that. So while I agree that there should be some link from performance to compensation, as there is in any other profession, the NCAA and all parties involved have continuously refused to make it a profession, and so we're stuck in this situation here.
Yeah, I certainly don't attribute this to NIL. I know what Bob was saying, and I can appreciate the point, but there's too many examples of teams that are really, really good that are spending a lot more money, and they are getting quality players that are playing 100%. And whether it's because they got paid to go to their dream school or because, they just want to play, they're like, hey, this school's paying me a lot of money. I want to reward you for your financial investment in me by giving that type of effort, because that type of stuff exists. Mm-hmm. Like, if you look at Florida, just use last year's national championship team as an example. They had Walter Clayton Jr., who was the best player on that team, transferred from Iona and got a pretty nice pay bump to come to Florida. He played pretty hard to win them a title. Will Richard came from Belmont, got a significantly higher pay bump, played really hard, played well enough to get himself drafted. Elijah Martin could have packed it in with his career, because he was at Florida Atlantic and helped take a Florida Atlantic team to the Final Four. He goes to Florida, significant pay bump, plays a vital role on that championship team. You just got to be able to invest in the right pieces and players that are going to play hard. And it's on the coach, too, to make sure that there's not a culture instilled that is conducive to that type of result. And I think one thing we're seeing here, too, is, like, yeah, every now and then, you know, once every month or so, you're going to have a game where the effort's not there and you got to put a boot in someone's tail to try to get that type of effort out of them. And usually that's rectified. But when it's not just an outlier and it's becoming a regularity, then that does, rightfully so, put into serious question what is or where is the dog in this team, right? If you get, let's just go back to the Arkansas game, right? You get beat by Arkansas. You're down 43 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. You garbage timed your way to it being a 34-point loss as opposed to 43. Okay. You still got your butt kicked. Come out the next day against a good Auburn team and show that you have some of that dog in you. And they did. And Lamont even said this last night in the presser, that usually that takes care of that. Usually you don't see that type of folding again at any point in the season. He's coached a lot of ball. He's been on some teams that have gotten their butts kicked, and, you know, they respond pretty well. This team has not done that. They go to Texas A&M. At one point in that game, they're trailing by 32 points. And then you come back home in the friendly confines of CLA, where you should be your most comfortable playing as a team. You get down by double digits early, and the beating just continued until morale improved. Morale never improved. Mm-hmm. And that's why you end up losing by 47 points. We will go back to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Dominique is on the line. Good morning, Dominique. Appreciate you calling into the early game.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. You doing all right?
Pretty good. So I just wanted to touch base on a couple things and get y'all's feedback. So a lot of the things I've been hearing and seeing online is like fire pairs, you know, questioning the toughness of the team, the quit and stuff like that. Some of the effort and some of the toughness, you know, I can say, you know, those evaluations are fair. I think Paris is dealing with some things that are definitely challenging coaching in South Carolina. I mean, having Under Armour, for one, is a challenge. You know, a lot of these schools that you see around the SEC have bigger brands, which lead to higher NIL opportunities. And that brings a different level of talent. That brings a different level of caliber of a player. And I think some of that he has going against himself. I think some of the NIL issues that they talk about, you know, as far as the boosters, football does get money, but basketball is a gap. And I think the way he's recruiting, he's going as far as, you know, if he's not going to be able to get the high-profile kids, he's trying to get fit to his style, but at the same time, the fit is not matching the caliber of player. Like, if you look at his roster, it's a mid-major type of roster, and it's been that for years. And if you're getting mid-major type of kids and you play in the SEC, it's just not really going to work out. And unless something changes from that NIL front, I don't really see that changing. But I will say, though, with Nike coming in the fall, if he does have a little more time, I think that will change a tad. I don't think it's completely on Paris. I think it's kind of unfair, some of the heat he's getting with that. But I'll let y'all chime in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominique, appreciate the call, man. One thing that I certainly agree with, this is the toughest job in the SEC. Now, we can talk all day as to whether or not it should be the toughest job in the SEC, and we'll break that down a little later in this hour. There's a conversation as to whether or not, or as to like why it is, if it is, and what can change to make sure you're not the toughest job in the SEC. And financial investment's a big part in that too. Again, you're last in NIL spending in basketball. Therefore, it would be a fair expectation to say you're going to finish at the bottom of your league. That assistance, I think two things are true at once here. The investment needs to be upped, and as a coach, you have got to get just more out of your players. I know the roster is at the bottom part of the SEC in terms of talent and athleticism, but that should never happen. You could be at the bottom of your league in talent and athleticism and still go through a whole season without losing by 47 at home.
Because that team with that effort would walk into some mid-major gyms and get mopped.
Yeah. You play St. Louis.
You play some of those mid-majors, and with that effort and that ability, you're not walking out of those places.
Yeah, you're going to learn lessons the hard way. Coming up next, I hate to be the bearer of more bad news, but for the morning meeting, there's baseball news. I'll tell you what happened coming up next.
Press here for our folks at Integrated Media. Listen, we've been trying to tell you that you need to get your setup ready. Well, you missed the CFP. But as I keep saying, there's a lot of big sporting events that are on the way. The big game, the big golf tournament, big race coming up here, big basketball tournament coming up here. Can't say any of them by name because I don't want them to come after me. But you can call the folks at Integrated Media to get your outdoor setup ready. What does an outdoor setup look like? Well, you will have Wi-Fi that works everywhere that you need it. So call the folks at Integrated Media and they can have you set up. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's Nathan and Michael at Integrated Media at 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
looking good. No accidents this morning, so hopefully it stays that way. A few slowdowns in the typical spots, but as far as accidents go, no significant slowdowns, and we're thrilled. Hopefully it stays that way, like I said. And 47 is the high you're looking for today, 52 tomorrow. Snow chance is very likely, and a high of 31 on Saturday, then overnight low of 16. Sunday, the snow's out of here, and it'll be sunny, but a high of only 35, overnight low of 16. So again, pretty cold and wintry weekend, but it's 32 right now.
Well, I know this is the part of the show every day where we play the fun song that says today is going to be an awesome day. And you know what? It is, because here's the good news. We're going to make it an awesome day, whether you planned on it or not. But I will have to still deliver the bad news because, well,
that's why we play the music.
This is why we play the music. So we'll go ahead and do that to start today's morning meeting.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Whether you like it or not.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
All right, now it's time for the bad news. All right, that was fun. That was good.
To wait a little longer? Is there something else fun you can tell us about?
I can tell you they just tased Ryan. It's always funny when somebody else gets tased. Watching somebody get tased is really funny. I just have to retweet the video. That way you can get the visual along with the audio that you got this morning.
Oh, you have. I mean, you do. I did go back, and because Preston said you could hear when they tase him, and he's right. You can hear the kind of,
the 35-second mark, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
somewhere about there.
Somewhere around there is when you hear.
Then he just drops like
Good stuff.
Yeah.
The zapping heard around the world. But it's time for the bad news.
Okay.
Remember last year when Eli Jersenbeck was announced that he had to have Tommy John surgery and he was going to miss the 2025 season despite being a potential Friday starter for the baseball team? I regret to inform you that history has repeated itself with a different pitcher. Jake McCoy, who was, in terms of velocity, one of your hardest throwing pitchers last season, was announced yesterday that he too, projected Friday starter, will miss the 2026 season because of a torn UCL, which requires Tommy John surgery.
I'm curious on the conditioning. Is this just something that just can happen? I mean, I know it can, but it's just weird that there's two pitchers that have done this now.
I think it's a fair thing to question because the entire sport is grappling with that right now. One of the best books I have read in the last couple of years is from a buddy of mine who works for The Athletic, covers the MLB, Tyler Kepner. The book is just called K, and it's a history of baseball in 10 pitches. And he's got, each chapter is a different pitch, like the curveball, the knuckleball, the fastball. And when it comes to the fastball, there's a lot of discussions that he had with, former players, current players, coaches about conditioning of arms and how you manage them, because now fastball velocity is higher than it has been at any point in the sport. Now that we've been tracking this a little more closely, you can see the data clearly indicate that pitchers are throwing harder than they ever have. That's why they are pitching less, and you're squeezing in a lot of high-velocity pitches in a shorter amount or smaller amount of pitches throughout the game. That's why we don't see complete games anymore in Major League Baseball. Bob Gibson pitched until his arm was not functioning anymore because he would throw 135 pitch complete games And now with the way that they throw, these type of injuries are significantly more common. And the average age in which a pitcher is getting Tommy John surgery is a lot lower, right? There are a lot of pitchers in high school that will miss a year in high school because they are getting Tommy John surgery.
In fact, one of the developments is that oftentimes during the scouting process, they starting to ask, "Have you had your surgery yet?"
Which is I find to be alarming.
It's a very troubling development, but they ask, like, "Have you had your surgery yet?" And the quality is like, "Yes, I have," and then they can move forward because they kind of almost understand that this is going to be on the horizon for somebody as a pitcher who has to, because of the way the game has progressed, the way we've chosen to let the game progress, is that velocity is king. And you connected the first thing. What is the special thing about Jake McCoy? He has the highest velocity. Well, there's going to be, you can't get it for free.
Right.
It's not for free. And, you know, to make a NASCAR analogy, it'd just be like running your car in red the whole time. Or
yeah, you're running the tires off of it. And,
you just can't do it the whole time.
They need a retread.
And that's essentially where it is. And unfortunately, this story is just going to keep getting told.
And is part of it, is it because primarily of the velocity, or is it the fact that it seems like now kids are starting so young and they're playing so much, and that's probably a whole other debate.
That's the multi-pronged part of it.
Yeah, that was in that book. A whole other part of it is how frequently these kids are playing, right? There were a lot of Hall of Fame pitchers that were interviewed for that book. Which again, if you are a baseball fanatic, I think that is a must read. And a lot of those guys said, we didn't really pitch in a lot of our off seasons. We played other sports. You know, we were encouraged to play other sports. And they say that helped them a lot. But this is a problem that just the sport of baseball needs to really face and start addressing and kind of considering closely how you can avoid this sort of thing. And it's what makes like a pitching coach's job significantly harder, because now you're not just responsible for producing results. You're responsible for producing results and overseeing the long-term arm health of these pitchers. There are too many good pitchers in college baseball that end up getting hurt like this early, and they're never the same, right? It's getting your Tommy John surgery. There's a lot of examples in Major League Baseball of guys having this and coming back and being fine, but not everybody is.
And I was gonna say, so that's maybe the positive. If we're gonna try and throw some garnet glasses on, we're gonna try and pull some positivity out. Much like ACL or any of those things, it's not the death knell that it was at one time.
It used to be, yeah.
It's not that. So the surgery, unfortunately, because we're having more of them, is becoming more routine. They're developing the rehab procedures. They're getting better at that. So it's not what it was as far as that's concerned. But anytime you have surgery, it's up to chance of whether or not you can come back bigger, faster, stronger. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's an unfortunate consequence of the game, but we're not going back.
Oh, no. I mean, there's a lot of things in baseball that aren't going to recycle. I know a lot of things in fashion and sports are recyclable. I don't know if velocity is one of those things, or a smaller velocity, or like
the crafty pitcher who throws, 91 on the edge and has a changeup, he's out of here.
Yeah. Barry Zito and Greg Maddux ain't walking through that door.
That's done.
The days of those guys, seemingly over. And what we value in pitchers now is significantly different. And what is the one thing that Paul Mainieri talked about a ton last year when it came to what this team faced and how they were out-armed in SEC play was, and what he might have not foreseen in the years that he was not coaching, was the level of velocity that SEC pitchers pitched with. And it's not a coincidence that something like this can happen, right? I'm not trying to place blame here. I'm just saying that's the nature of baseball right now. And I don't think it's just a South Carolina baseball problem that they're facing because of Jake McCoy not being available this year. It's a baseball problem. And
another discussion for a later time since we're up against a break, but I'm curious what's behind him.
Yeah. And then we're going to find out. Yeah, we're going to find out pretty soon enough. But coming up next, what can South Carolina do to turn the men's basketball program around? We'll discuss next. it became problematic.
Well, if you watched the game last night, 1, congratulations, you are a sicko. But 2, you witnessed the 4th worst loss in Carolina men's basketball history. The 4th worst loss. The worst loss was to the 1930 Furman Paladins by 59 points.
I don't think I was around for that one.
Wonder what 107.5 the game was going off in 1930. I know some folks were not a lot of mad letters being written to the press about that one.
The broadcast probably sounded just like this. The South Carolina Gamecocks have lost to the Paladins of Furman by 59 points, a school record that I am sure will never be broken.
Hasn't been broken yet, but 47. It's tied for the 4th worst loss in school history. So you witnessed something last night.
And it is. So, like last night, Florida's SID came in the press room and was reeling off some facts. And I never got the distinction if that was Florida's biggest margin of victory on the road in SEC play in program history. I can imagine it probably is. Or if he was saying that it is the largest margin of victory for a road team in SEC play in SEC history. Either way, it's not good, right? Like the history that was made last night isn't something you want to put on the resume.
Right.
Right. And, had a journalism teacher once tell me when going through some of my articles, say, hey, look, they can't all be Pulitzer Prize winners. They can't all be bad either. Right. You can accept maybe not all games being classic performances. They can't be that, though.
Right.
There's still a level of a standard that needs to be upheld. Jen, we found a clip from the press conference last night, and it's Lamont talking about the effort. And I think this needs to be heard because, unfortunately, if the head coach has to say this after the game, I think there are worse issues than just X's and O's and basketball stuff. This is Lamont Paris talking last night in the post-game presser about the effort of his team when it came to playing the defending national champs last night at home.
There was a level of aggression in this game on their behalf that made us relent. And that was disappointing to me. There's playing well, there's playing poorly, and then there's that. And there's nothing to be proud of in that effort in terms of fight. This is the second time that's happened. We did it, I think it was the Arkansas game where we saw some of that. And then at some point in every game, there's a point where you realize probably it's not going to work out for us. I'm so reluctant to admit that point has happened. We had some guys more eager to admit that point had gotten there, and our play reflected it. So bad turned into worse. So that's just a poor effort overall on our behalf, and so we have to again find ourselves in a situation where we have to respond to that. I'm more likely or more in the camp of an ounce of prevention versus a pound of cure, and I would like to prevent those scenarios from happening as much. But here we are again, and so we will have to get right back to business and respond. It wouldn't matter who we're playing in the next game. We have to worry about ourselves, and so I was disappointed in our effort, in our competitive spirit in a lot of ways, and so that just really surprised me.
Which sport it is, football, basketball, baseball, field hockey, badminton, don't care. There are things that you can control and things you cannot control. You cannot control what another team does when it comes to maybe making tough shots, when it comes to maybe a freak of nature athletic play, which in the SEC you will see a couple teams have guys that can just do that, right? I mean, I think about
the Arkansas game, Darius Acuff is a guy that's going to score 30 in almost any game he wants to if he sets his mind to scoring 30 points. If he wants to score 22 and drop 7 or 8 assists, he'll do that too. That part isn't controllable. But what is controllable is your effort. And yes, Florida is a basketball team that loves to get out in transition. Ever since Todd Golden's been the coach at Florida, even when he was the coach at San Francisco, his teams were always the best in college basketball, or one of the best, at getting out in transition and trying to get the easiest shot before your defense is set. That's a philosophy of his. This is nothing new that he does. But even the best team in college basketball when it comes to fast break points per game, which is Georgia, they score 23 a game. 23 points Georgia gets from the fast break, again, leads the nation. Florida had 32 of those last night. You got outscored in fast break points 32-3. That's just a number that is a reflection of the effort that Lamont Paris was alluding to in that 2-minute clip.
Yeah, and it's really important to hear it from him. And again, the thing I appreciate about Lamont is he's always a straight shooter. He always says exactly what he thinks because he doesn't try and sugarcoat it. And so he said exactly that there was a lack of effort and a lack of will to compete throughout the game. And I thought it was really interesting. He said, if you've played sports, there is a point where you're like, especially if it's a sport with a clock, you're like, man, this is going to be a tough one. I don't know if we're going to be able to get this. And what he hinted at was that the players on the team, that point came a lot earlier for them than it did for him. And I'm thinking, when it was 22-11, a lot of those players on the team like, that's it. It's over. Mm-hmm. When there's the whole game's left to play, but we're already down 10, we're probably not going to come back. I don't know about that. And he said that his point was a lot later than theirs, and unfortunately, a lot of them did not seem to have the competitive will to want to be a part of it. As someone said in the text, we didn't seem like we wanted that smoke.
No. And that's what happens when you go down 11 points early, and then instead of it being an 11 to 15-point game for the rest of the first half and saying, hey, halftime, let's regroup. This game is not over. How many college basketball or NBA games, especially in the NBA because of the way teams shoot threes, you're supposed to be a high-volume three-point shooting team. If you make a high volume of your threes, you can erase those type of deficits, right? This happens in basketball a lot. An 11-point lead at no point is insurmountable.
Right.
But when you start lacking in effort...
Unless you think it is.
Yeah, bingo. Unless you convince yourself that it is, then it is insurmountable at that point. And that was the stretch late in the first half that got people leaving, was when it went from being an 11-point deficit to a 20-plus point deficit, and you just didn't have that dog in you to stop that bleeding. And that's just one of those things that you can't accept, right? You can't have it to where your coach after the game has to say, we just didn't compete. We didn't have that fight in us when things got tough. And when you see it on multiple occasions, it's really troublesome in terms of just what the program's looking at right now. It's not like, that was the last game of the year. Like, to go back to some of my other experiences, was beat writing for a small newspaper outside of Nashville when I was doing that, as extra work while I was in college. And I was covering the Vanderbilt men's basketball team. That was a winless in SEC play men's basketball team that cost Bryce Drew his job. And they lost a couple of close games early in SEC play, including one to South Carolina. Lost that one at home. Lost a couple of other close games to like Kentucky. Lost an overtime game to number 1 Tennessee at the time. And then at a certain point in the season, in the month of February, they play Kentucky again, and they lose by almost 40 points. They play Arkansas in the last game of the year. Arkansas was a top 5 SEC team at the time. Beat them by over 40 points. And at that point, you realize they had not just given up on a game, that team gave up on a season.
Yep.
And they gave up on it in February. And it took Vanderbilt a while to recover from that. Now they see what they've done now. Now they're 2 coaches removed from Bryce Drew. But it set that program back a lot. And a season like that where those type of losses pile up can set you back a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons why even just competing, I can understand losing games, but not competing
there you go.
is so damning to your program. And that's the unfortunate situation this program is staring down the barrel of right now.
Yeah, you're in the danger zone right now because you're right on the crust, the precipice of being losers. And I keep using that word very deliberately because it's not about your record. It's not about you losing games. It's about the effort and the manner in which you do lose these games. Everybody can accept if you've ever played sports, you are going to lose. Mm-hmm. Any coach worth his salt can understand the idea that you can lose games. What you can never accept, and this is when you get on your like Hoosiers champions for life type of stuff. Like you can't accept being a loser, dog. Getting blown out by 47, getting blown out by 34 repeatedly, you can't accept that. Somebody has to step up. And I mean, there's words I want to use right here, but you're going to have to step up and say, like, we can't do this. I don't care if we lose, but we're not losing by that amount. Because if you accept being a loser now, you'll accept being a loser later. And trust me, being a loser is easy. That's the easiest part. Yeah. You don't have to fight. Just show up, put your jersey on. You go out there and play a little, you be a loser. It doesn't matter. That's the easiest part. And when you start getting, it happens once, it happens twice, it starts to become acceptable. And that's the danger zone that this team is in right now, of just saying we're just losers. And what's the difference?
Because giving 100% effort is controllable, but also it's hard.
It's hard.
You have to exert yourself to be able to do that. And when you don't do that for a stretch of games, it doesn't just become a one-off, it becomes a habit.
That's what I'm saying.
And rolling out there and it becoming a habit is the worst possible place that you could be as a program. And I guess that's what makes Saturday's game is important for them. If it's not important to you listening, I don't blame you, right? I do not blame you, right? At this point, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. I want them to do it for themselves, not just for anything that for the 2025-2026 basketball season. Do it for yourself and show yourself that you still have that competitive edge in you. But coming up next, we discussed this earlier in the show about the most controversial rule in college football. Is there a change coming? Well, we'll discuss the reporting on that coming up next here in the early game.
Hey guys, listen, you feeling like you lost your edge? Maybe brain fall's got you struggling to focus. Maybe you're trying your hardest and you're still getting blown out by 47. Well, at least you're trying. And one way that you can continue to try and fight back is by calling Dr. Dan Baltnight at the men's clinic. Dr. Dan Baltnight is a respected local physician. He'll get to the bottom of the issues that you're having. So you could be doing everything that you need to do, but there might be one little thing that you need, and that might be low testosterone. And Dr. Dan Baltnight can bring you in for a free consultation, and they'll get you checked. They'll check your T levels and then see what is going on with you. The men's clinic, you'll find a non-threatening, comfortable environment that's open to hearing your concerns. They'll help you get back on the right path so that you won't be wasting effort and you can win again. So don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or you can find them online at mensclinicsc.com.
Couple accidents to let you know about. Two Notch Road near I-20. Also, Sunset Boulevard at Hook Avenue. And Garner's Ferry Road near Fort Jackson Boulevard. An accident there as well. Looking for high today of 47. Going to be a little bit warmer tomorrow, 52. And then things change for a cold, wintry weekend. We're looking for a high of 31 on Saturday with snow. Then Sunday, the snow's out of here. We get back to some sunny skies, but a high of only 35. And the weekend overnight lows in the teens. Currently 29 with some sunshine on 107.5 The Game.
Hand, if you've ever been frustrated by the application of the targeting rule, I think everybody is raising their hand right now. If you are driving a vehicle right now, do not raise any hands. Keep both hands on that wheel. 10 and 2, drive safely, but you can nod in agreement and in some recollection of some applications of the targeting rule that you may or may not be really cool with. I have good news. That is, there will reportedly be a reevaluation of the rule. I will say this. The rule's not going anywhere in terms of that being a penalty. Because if you read Ross Dellinger's story on Yahoo Sports, there is empirical evidence that suggests the rule has been, in its application, there are fewer injuries, and they have had fewer targeting calls since the introduction. So they've had to call it less.
So it's double successful.
Yes. In the story, they said it's only called 1 out of every 4 games that are played. And that rate was a lot higher. I think we could all agree that rate was a lot higher when it was first implemented. Mm-hmm. So it's getting a little safer, and the technique is being taught better to where we're just having fewer incidences of this happen.
Also, there's generations of players who are coming up as this is just football to them.
Yes.
See, when I started, back in my day, right, there was this thing called face mask. There was a penalty for grabbing somebody's face mask. But you know what? There's somebody who might be listening now and been like, back in my day, we could just grab somebody's face mask and twist their head off. But you know what? We evolved.
It's gotten soft. The game's gotten soft.
Exactly. The game's continuously getting softer. Maybe to a point. But this generation has come along with targeting being something that they've all been accustomed to playing with. And so they're teaching it, they're learning it, and that means the rule is working. And I think that's a benefit.
And if you go back maybe a generation before that other generation, they say back in my day we didn't have face masks.
There you go.
We didn't even know stinking helmets.
We didn't even have a helmet for Deacon Jones to slap.
It was just straight assault, brother, for 4 quarters. Bam. But when it comes to the new application, or maybe a reevaluated application, I don't want to say new because nothing is set in stone. Nothing is even really reported on in terms of an actual decision. But one thing that is being discussed is having different degrees of targeting, right? And one of the examples used in the story was Xavier Lucas at Miami got a targeting call in the second half of that Ole Miss game, which was the semifinal of the college football playoff, and he had to miss the entire first half of the national championship game. And I think if you watch that play, you can say, yes, that's targeting, but also by the letter of the law, that is targeting. But also, do we really have to suspend the guy for the first half of the next game or kick him out of this one? That was one thing I was certainly thinking of, because I remember sitting on my couch watching that game and saying, yeah, I mean, if the rules are what the rules are, you have to call it. But because of the blanket, punishment for it, it does not matter how badly he committed this penalty. He still has to get kicked out of this game and still has to miss the first half of the next game.
Right.
But in that story, one thing that is going to be considered is having the different degrees of targeting. Kind of like in basketball with flagrant fouls. There are flagrant 1s, there are flagrant 2s. If I have forcible contact to Preston's head or neck area in a game, but it's clearly not like intentional. There's no wind up or anything like that. I can be called with a flagrant one, which just adds to my foul total, and Preston will get 2 free throws and the ball back. But if I straight up, rear back and maliciously, slap Preston on the head as he's going up for a layup, they can call me with a flagrant 2, and not only are you getting 2 shots in the ball back, I'm getting sent to the locker room and I'm getting kicked out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a separation between a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2. This could potentially be applied to targeting, and I don't know what. Again, this is the very early stages of these discussions, according to Ross at Yahoo Sports. But if we have a separate degree of targeting, maybe like a targeting 1 or a targeting 2 type deal, where maybe there is incidental contact, it just happens to be to the head neck area of a defenseless player, and there is no launching, there is no crown of the helmet, but it still finds itself in the letter of the law of a targeting 1, then you can still throw the flag. 15 yards can still be tacked on, but that player's not getting kicked out of the game, and therefore, if it's in the second half of the game, suspended for the first half of the next game.
We can do this because we already do this with face masks, right?
Yep.
There's a 15-yard face mask. There's a 5-yard face mask. We know 1 is when I reach up and I grab your face mask and I drag you to the ground. That's 15. When I'm trying to work on somebody and I hit you in the face, that's a 5-yard penalty. That is a thing. We already have some of these things in place. We are capable of doing this.
And you listen to any, rules analyst on these broadcasts, and when it comes to like the face mask thing, they can easily tell you what the difference between a 5 and a 15-yarder is. Mm-hmm. Like if you go up and you're trying to make a tackle like around the chest area, but your hand hits the face mask and maybe like grabs it for a second and you let go, 5 yards. But again, if you pull them down by it, that's a clear 15. Right? And that's an easy distinction to make. The real task for officials now when it comes to having various degrees of targeting is finding that line of demarcation into what a targeting 1 and targeting 2 could be. Because we've seen some targeting penalties where clearly a guy is launching with the crown of his helmet, makes contact with a defenseless player's helmet, and that's when you watch it and say, okay, you didn't have to do that. That's a fair send-off, from the game. And if it happens in the second half, a fair suspension in the first half of the second game. I feel like if we try to define it, we can define that really well if the powers that be honestly think hard enough and get precise enough with the wording to allow for no interpretation, but to have some pretty clear parameters on what that can look like.
And we would train us up as spectators to recognize it because we all can basically tell the difference between roughing the kicker and running into the kicker.
Yes.
We know that. And you know with your eyes, you're like, and then you say, well, it's just running into the kicker, or whatever the case is. We can recognize that. We see that as spectators. They can do that. We have this in place in the game already, and this is a great place to have this sort of the gradient between one and the other because it's too consequential for it to just be, well, this dude launched into me and tried to take my head off, as opposed to this dude tackled me and I ducked my head a little bit and his helmet ducked a little bit and we both hit helmets. Those two dudes should not be both suspended for the next game. Those are two different violations.
And I think maybe one of the reasons why we're having this type of change is what Mario Cristobal said after that game was like having him not available for the first half is a little excessive. And it was. And I certainly agree with Mario's assessment of that.
You can get a speeding ticket or you could be recklessly driving.
I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my day, and I will say there have been some degrees in which the amount of money I paid was different from one than the other.
There you go.
We can define this.
We're capable of this.
Yes. As a sports society, we are more than capable of being able to reach these definitions. Coming up next, we'll continue the discussion of what happened last night at CLA, as well as the unfortunate news with the Gamecock Baseball program, with their season coming up here in just a few short weeks. David Cloninger from the Post and Courier joins us next here in the early game. Well, when it comes to laws and being able to, laws or rules, and differentiating between some and maybe getting yourself out of trouble with those, my friend John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm maybe can't help with the targeting part of it and the sports side, but they can help you when it comes to getting yourself out of a pickle when it comes to tax issues, right? Whether it be personal income tax issues or business tax issues, those stresses can be pretty heavy. And John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm have the local solutions that can get you one step closer to a worry-free life. 803-771-9800. That is the number to call to set up a free consultation with the Ecton Law Firm team where you can meet up with them, game plan things, attack the problems at the root, and with the team that understands those challenges that you or your business can face, they are ready to offer you that peace of mind that I know you deserve. Again, that phone number is 803-771-9800, or you can always visit them at ectonlawfirm.com. It's ectonlawfirm.com.
Augusta Highway near I-26, an accident there. Also, Emmanuel Church Road at Kittiwake. Garnish Ferry Road at Fort Jackson Boulevard, an accident reported. Sunset Boulevard at Hook Avenue and Two Notch Road near I-20. That forecast, some clouds today, 47 for the high, 52 tomorrow. Come Saturday, Going to see some snow and a high of 31 with an overnight low of just 16. 30 currently and 107.5 The Game.
Phone a friend. Going to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. My man David Cloninger from the Post and Courier. We talked a lot about this game last night. I said, you know what? This is good. We should probably talk about this on air. Good morning, David. How are we doing this morning?
Not bad, Elijah. How are you?
Yeah, got some sleep. Not a ton. Not ideal to walk out of that arena at 11:30 to do a morning show the next day, but that's what the caffeine is for, right? That's what that is absolutely for. But I want to start off, with that game too. Obviously, 95-48. I don't care who you're playing. You could be playing Florida. You could be playing Florida State. You could be playing, Florida Tech. Any school imaginable. A 95-48 loss is unacceptable. What were kind of your main takeaways from watching that game last night in terms of explaining why we got what we got?
Well, that's just it, Elijah. That kind of, performance is just completely inexcusable. I mean, it's one thing to play a better talented team, and Florida is much, much more talented than USC, and it's another to take it on the chin at home. But that badly, as Florida said after the game, that ties the overall road margin of victory in SEC history. Not Florida history, SEC history. So, and then you got the coach coming there and talking about how he's disappointed in his players' effort. Again, it's fine if you get beat sometimes or even blown out, but when you're not trying and when you appear to not care, that's a hell of another thing. So this is a game where fingers get pointed. This is a game that gets remembered where if you're a coach, it gets remembered by the people who are in charge of your employment. And so this cannot happen again if there's going to be a future.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, David, is the future, right? What is the gauge that you have on the mounting pressure that this coaching staff is facing now that we've seen this loss? And this is clearly the first 47-point loss, but we saw what happened at Arkansas. We saw what happened over the weekend at Texas A&M. How much pressure is being built when it comes to the further evaluation of this coaching staff and this program?
I think it's steadily mounting, Elijah. Again, this game's going to be remembered by folks who, again, as if you're a coach, you don't want them remembering this kind of game. So it really puts it on Lamont Paris and the staff to immediately turn this around, to try to win your next game, and then you got to start stacking some wins. You've just got to be substantially better because you looked at the crowd last night, Elijah, and you saw exactly what I did. Again, it wasn't that full of a crowd anyway. The students did an outstanding job. They all showed up, but they were all leaving, 10 minutes through the first half, maybe 5 minutes left in the first half when it was a 30-point game, and I don't blame them. I'd want to go out and enjoy myself instead of seeing that. So when it's the end of the game and the Florida fans are chanting and you can hear every word they're saying because there's nothing to counter them with and all the USC fans have left, that does not go unnoticed by the people who notice those things. Now, yes, you can say, oh, well, the seats were filled and the tickets were sold and there was somebody in there, so the athletic department already got their money. They're looking at how this looks on TV, and you can't go to the game with blinders on. So this is the kind of thing that sticks, and you're going to have to do a whole lot to erase this memory.
And it kind of leads me to this, too. David Cloninger from the Post and Courier is on with us right now. You've been around this program for a long time. You've seen some successes, and you've seen some seasons like this year. And I have a theory, David, that when the Field of 68 does their anonymous coaches poll on the best and worst jobs in the SEC, that I expect South Carolina to be at the bottom of that. How can that change, right? I mean, we're in an era of college sports where Indiana just won a football college national championship, right? The Nebraska Cornhuskers are 5th in the country in men's basketball, and we're undefeated until this week. Clearly, we can see things that have not been historical trends be reversed and things happen that maybe aren't expected to happen at certain places. But where does this athletic department even begin to try to course correct with this basketball team and kind of get them moving forward?
Well, Elijah, it's kind of simple. The fans will show up if you give them a product worth watching. And that's because South Carolina fans are extremely loyal, and also because they burn to win. They hope that it's going to be different this year. They want it so bad that they're always going to show up at the beginning of the season. You keep losing, they're not going to show up. So you got to give them the product. And how do you do that in this day and age? You got to invest in the program. Now, the athletic department put a substantial amount of money, much more than last year, into this program, and this is the roster that this staff recruited. So you've got to, first of all, supply the funds, which I don't think they'll have any problem in doing for the future, and you've also got to make sure you're spending those funds wisely. Again, this staff got what they needed to build a competitive roster, and this is what they came up with. There's 4 guys who you basically can't play. There's a couple guys who are redshirting. There's no true point guard. And I've said this before, and nothing against those guys who are doing what they can, but only at South Carolina could you have 2 7-foot players who, if you say, hey, what's your best offensive move? Shooting the three-pointer. That could only happen here. So it's not good. And, if there is, coming into the future, again, the funds will be there, but you have to spend those funds wisely and go get some guys that will make a team. Now, we saw it happen 2 years ago. They built a great team, and it was for not near the amount of money that they put into this one. So it can happen again, but you have to have that coaching evaluation from the transfer portal, and then you're getting guys from the high school ranks that can immediately help. So it's a mix of that, and you hope it happens, but again, Elijah, I keep reading the stat that USC's got 10 NCAA tournament appearances all time, and that's just above 4 or 5 other Power 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the history is what it is, but history can change any day.
Yeah, that's the best part of it, right? David Cloninger with us right now for the Post and Courier. And David, I wish I could follow this up by talking about good news from the baseball program, considering we are just mere weeks away from the season starting. But for the second straight year, Paul Maneri is going to have his projected Friday night starter miss the season because of Tommy John surgery. A, how big of a blow is this to the 2026 version of the South Carolina Gamecocks? And B, is this more of a damning indictment of the overall state of baseball when it comes to just the challenge of preserving arms for pitchers?
Well, it's certainly a blow. I mean, Jake McCoy is a guy who is going to get out there for you every Friday night and eat innings, win or lose. He's a guy that had tremendous upside, tremendous amount of talent, but it's just bad luck. There's nothing to blame on the coaching staff, on the training staff. There's nothing. I mean, they told him he's, just destroying the Cape Cod League last year. And they told him, come on home after 3 starts. We don't want you to wear your arm out. And it's just a fact of the game that when you play so much and pitch so much, your arm is not meant to throw that way. And he felt something tweaked. This is a baseball problem, not USC baseball, baseball overall. Texas A&M just lost their top starters the other day, the same thing. So you never know what's going to happen, but it happened. It happened here for the second year in a row. You're just going to have to move forward. The good thing is that the Gamecocks are much, much, much more better equipped to deal with it this year as opposed to last year. So, unfortunately, the bad news doesn't stop there. You'll need to keep an eye on the Post and Courier website in about 15 minutes for some other injury news that is not pleasant. It's not as destitute as Jake McCoy going down for the season, but it's certainly not comforting.
Oh, boy.
That's what a cliffhanger.
I appreciate the work that you do, David, and I'm going to be locked in on it. But I almost wish that you didn't have to report that as well to hit us with that Billy Mays. But wait, there's more.
It's not fun going into the season, with the ace pitcher gone and another starter at least questionable. But hey, there's 2 weeks for the season. Maybe this one I'm talking about will get better. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you still kind of have some time for that specific injury to heal up. That's David Cloninger from the Post and Courier. David, appreciate your time as always, my man, and I'll see you around here pretty soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
David's the man. David's also a winner, and we have plenty of winners from today's show, including maybe someone who got tased. Or was it the tasee who was the winner? I don't know. We'll find out coming up next here in the early game.
Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it. I want winners. Winners.
Oh, and our winners are always brought to you by the Golden Spur. And we got plenty of winners. And, in a show in which we had to just hash out ugly details of a 47-point loss at home in basketball, men's basketball, there was the ultimate highlight of the show, and that is getting to play the funniest clip you will see in sports all week. So my winner, Ryan. Ryan got tased. And Ryan will always be known for getting tased because the phrase, they just tased Ryan, is up there with, do you believe in miracles? Yes, for me, in terms of calls unbroadcast that will resonate with me forever.
Yeah, I mean, in his town, he's definitely going to be like, Ryan who? You know Ryan that got tased?
He's going to be Ryan that got tased.
Oh, my gosh.
That's going to be his name.
That's terrible.
Ryan that got tased. Oh, that Ryan. Yeah.
And remember, think about being the kid of Ryan who got tased.
Oh, is that your dad? Oh, exactly. His dad is the one that got tased. Oh, for sure. Definitely going to give him that. It seemed like Coach Singletary was preaching an apropos sermon just now because you can't win with him, can't do it. My winner is a concept, and the concept is effort.
Yeah.
We did not have a lot of it last night in the CLA, and as Coach Singletary said, can't win with him, can't do it. So if you're not willing to put forth effort, it's going to be very difficult, and I suggest that beatings may continue until the effort improves.
Yes, not until the morale improves, until the effort improves.
Right.
You will still be receiving steel toe boot to tail.
Correct.
Right? Another winner for today's show, Sad Boys. That's what we were for Halloween this past year because of the football season. And, well, the men's basketball season is what it is. And we received the news that Jake McCoy is out for the year because he has to have surgery to repair his torn UCL.
This was a sort of a sad boy episode today.
It was. And David Cloninger, who was on with us in the last segment, says here in about 15 minutes or so, there's going to be a story about another injury for the baseball team. And he said is a projected starter. So we'll find out who that is, and we'll discuss it more in detail tomorrow. But today is a day to be a sad boy, and because the Senate is sponsoring our bottom ticker here on the YouTube stream, and they picked the perfect time on Friday night to host emo karaoke with a live band. So pick your favorite My Chemical Romance jam. There are plenty to choose from, and go let it out and really sad boy it out this weekend.
I'm going to give a winner to rule changes because we talked about the targeting concept and we said that we're trying to make the game safer, and it's working. And in football, there's always a generation of people saying, like, the game's getting soft, right? Over and over again. But there's never been a rule change made specifically for one person, and that person would be Deacon Jones and the head slap. And if you don't know, he would just come off the line, and he wouldn't club, he wouldn't rip, he wouldn't swim or do any of these fancy things. He'd just knock you upside the head and go get a sack. What a cool move it was. Cool enough that they had to say, hey, we can't do this anymore.
What's really funny is a play that is just so inherently violent being put to grainy footage with NFL Films music over it makes it even cooler.
I'm just going to come off the line and slap you so hard that you're stunned, and then I go sack the quarterback.
I am a large man. You are a large man. I will slap you across the head so hard that you cannot stop me from tackling your quarterback. Football can be a simple game sometimes, and when Deacon Jones played, it was a whole lot simpler.
And what's cool is that everybody else could have done that, but apparently their hands weren't hard enough to really effectively execute the head slap. Everybody else could have done it, but only Deacon Jones was the one that could really do it.
Dude had to have some serious meat claws. I can't attest to how big Deacon Jones's hands were, but if you can put that much force in someone's helmet and just completely knock them off their block, yeah.
South Carolina State.
Ah.
Get up for the Bulldogs.
Hey, they produced a lot of a few Hall of Famers.
Correct.
I was more than some programs in this state.
Most in this state.
Yeah, like that is football rich, and just Deacon Jones, cool player.
Yeah, cool. By far, cool player, cool name. Everything about Deacon Jones is cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
it's almost like if you have a cool name, it like elevates. Like your legend, like the Minnesota Vikings defensive line, the Purple People Eaters, that goes so hard in terms of like the pantheon of like hardest nicknames in sports. Like, you can't convince me that's not the greatest unit in the history of sports solely because of the name. I don't have to even watch them play. But if you were nicknamed the Purple People Eaters, yeah, you're a winner. Apparently.
With that being said, I want to give another shout out to the name Deacon and one of my favorite side characters on the TV show, the greatest sitcom of all, in my opinion, King of Queens. Deacon, great side character.
Greatest sitcom of all time.
It's a personal opinion. I know we're late in the show. It could get hot and heavy here. But I'm standing on that.
Okay.
Solid choice.
I need to watch more of it. I think I've maybe watched like 3 episodes of King of Queens, and it's only because it was on in the background.
Oh, for sure.
But I do love Kevin James. Kevin James is funny to me. But I'm always going to remember him as Paul Blart, Mall Cop.
Ooh. He got robbed. He should have won an Oscar. Oscar season is here. How come Paul Blart Mall Cop didn't get nominated?
Also a song that sparked my Barry Manilow fandom. Played in that movie.
You are a fan of Lowe.
I am a fan of Lowe. Yes. Wishing you the best, Barry. He's battling through some stuff right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Wishing you the best, Barry. I'm always a believer in you. Barry Manilow's the winner. The early game's the winner. You're
Looks
a
like
winner
we
for
made
hanging
it.
out with us. It does look like we made it. Left each other on a way to another love. And that other love is the extra point. And they're next. Looks like we made it. Oh, I thought so too to me.
Oh, no. Who do I have? I have something here. Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment is family owned and serving the Midlands since 1983.